Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, the film that is being marketed as the final adventure of Indy, which normally when we hear that, we like to call bullshit, but it does sound like they'll, Lucasfilm are like, yeah, this is it. This is it. We ain't James Bonding this. We're not doing this. We're not doing that. We're not doing the normal stuff that normally happens where we tell you it's the final film of a franchise. It mostly means the final version of this character. It's like, nope, there's only going to be one version. We ain't Batmaning it, we're not James Bonding it, there's one Indy. So naturally we're all curious about how you're going to wrap this up. How are you going to give this character a proper send-off? You need to make it better than Crystal Skull. You need to make sure it's not about aliens. So at least you got that. There's a couple of don'ts that and make sure it doesn't turn into a Fast and Furious film with the vine swinging, like Tarzan. We just safe to say we don't do that. But it's also the first film that's not directed by Steven Spielberg. So naturally you're curious like how's this gonna work? I know it's James Mangold, he did Logan and 43 Ferrari and Kay Littlepov and 10 Tender Humor and Logan, a guy with a really oppressive resume that gives remarkable results. And of course, as I mentioned, Logan, which is the last franchise movie he did. So there's a level of like, okay, we're in good hands here, but still, is Spielberg's DNA too linked with Indy to the point that it doesn't feel like Indy just because it's not the same director in the chair? It could be. We're like, okay, could this be a situation like that? And then you got all the mixed reactions from Cannes, which are like, god damn, like, I hope this movie's great. I hope this movie's good or okay or whatever, because the response out of Cannes, it was kind of split really down the middle, unless the idea of because it's in Cannes, there's a level of prestige attached to it, so people might expect like the Logan of Indiana Jones, where it's like trying to head for those awards, and you're watching it, and then you realize, oh, it's just an Indiana Jones movie. It's just hitting all those notes, and that's what this film is. It doesn't feel like the end of a franchise. It doesn't feel like the end. It feels like they realize there's no really a proper way to say goodbye to the character. There's no proper way to do it. The only way to do it is to kill the character off, and that's like a big no-no. So, what do? The guy is in his 70s, so you just give him you give the character, and naturally also has a forward, but you give the character one big epic adventure left. You have one big adventure with this character fighting Nazis and from in the 60s, and which is true. Nazis. There were German Nazis in the 60s, who were trying to the war was over, but they're still trying to push Hitler's message, which is in the real history books and all that kind of stuff. You can look it up. And me who finally saw the movie, me who finally watched Dial of Destiny, I will say this: like, it is not the best Indiana Jones movie. Still, Last Crusade is my go-to indie film. Just want to put it out there. I don't know why it is. Maybe I find it the better movie. Maybe me as a massive James Bond but James Bond fan. Maybe just having Sean Connery there. I don't know. I don't know why. Last Crusade I find is the best indie film. I don't know what that is, but it's still a good film. Dial of Destiny is still a good film. You have the action, you got the humor, you have great, you have good drama out through the movie. Definitely when we deal with age, with the concept of, you're in your 70s now, and things were a little bit simpler when you're in your 40s. Nazis bad, and everyone else is your ally. Like, things were very easy back then, and you out through this film, because this film was set in the late 60s, in 1969. Indy's kind of reflecting his life. He's reflecting how things have gone complicated, how it's not as so black and white anymore, and how he feels there's a sort of, he feels like a dinosaur. He feels like a fossil. He feels like he's a walking dead skeleton inside. Inside the world that he's in now. And all those aspects of things are really well acted and really well put together inside this adventure film. Now, this is the longest film out of the franchise. This is like 2 hours and like 23 minutes long, I think. While all the other indie films have been like slightly over 2 hours. I think Last Crusade is like the longest with like 2 hours and 8 minutes. Is the second longest. This film I could felt the length. I felt the pacing issues. I think what it is, it's like how many times can you have the cat and mouse game, where you have the villains who are naturally Nazis, who want to travel time. They want to travel time to make the war, make sure that the Germans win. That's basically the goal of that man Nicholson's character has. He's a ex-German soldier from the war, and he wants the results of the war happen slightly differently. So he is trying to hunt down this dial that could change the course of history itself, right? And of course, Indy and Hela, who is his goddaughter, are trying to find the same thing as well for different reasons. Kind of like stop Man Nicholson, to change the course of history. Essentially, is that plot point. But you have those situations, the cat and mouse game, where like, oh, we're investigating, we're investigating the artifact that we're trying to look for, and oh, who's over there? It's our villains, here's our bad guys, and then our hero's untrapped, and then our hero's escape, and it happens like 3 times out through the movie, and it kind of gets slightly repetitive. Like, I feel like the stuff on the boat could be cut out or could have changed and could just be like, okay, the Nazis are like 10 steps ahead from our heroes. Do that whole thing where like they knew exactly where to go, or would just like follow them in the distance or something, follow Indy, in the distance. That's how I probably would do it, instead of having like 4 or 5 versions. Like 2 are fine, but I think like the moment you hit 3, it kind of goes like, how many times are we going to be doing this? So I felt like there was a little bit of pacing issues with that. But the rest of it, it's ticking all the boxes. Like, good drama, you got good, decent action. It opens like Last Crusade with the whole, seeing Indy in his prime. Like, essentially, like, because it happens, like, the final days of the war, you may say, like, this is the final time that everything felt, for Indy, when everything was more simpler. Nazis are bad, find the artifacts, punch Nazis in the face while doing it. Killing Nazis also by doing it as well. It's just, it's fine. That's the thing. It's nothing bad about it. It's said here and there, and yes, a few of the CGI, but it's like, I'm watching it, I'm like, outside a audience member who couldn't shut the fuck up. It's just like, I constantly getting the one in commentary. I'm like, God damn it. And can people treat the movie theater like church, please? Can people just shut the fuck up? Like one of them is, oh, he got punched in the face. She punched him in the face. Yeah, he punched him in the face like 5 times. I'm like, I just saw it. Can you just shut up and let me watch the rest of the movie? Anyway, but yeah, I mean, it's fine. That's the thing. It's a fine, good time in the movies. I think for average goer, it's going to be a good time in the movie theater. It's a decent send off. It's and there was a scene at the end that felt like, okay, this is how you wrap things up, with like the big dramatic thing without killing the character off. But I mean, yeah, it's fine. That's the thing. It's ticking on the boxes. It's fine. Nothing bad. Set the odd pacing issue thing. For me, I'm watching this, I'm like, yeah, I walked in, watched the movie, had a good time. That's all you want, and that's it's kind of it. There's nothing major. There's no big major problems. Saying all those things. Yeah, I just thought it was fine.